1996, 2 years after the trials, the Arkansas Supreme Court affirmed all the convictions. But even that early, public outrage was already beginning. I had started writing about the case as soon as the trial was over and I was given access to the police records. And I wrote my first column. It was an opinion piece on Halloween in 1994. And I said, I was talking about, after I had read their entirety, the two parts of the transcript of Jesse's confession. And I thought, this is bogus. And I began that column saying, this is the scariest story I know to tell you today. But in 1996, the HBO documentary, Paradise Lost, came out. Judge Burnett, to his everlasting regret, allowed cameras, a film team from HBO, which had heard about these three boys being put on trial for killing three other kids in an occult slaying. They sent people right down from New York. They got Burnett to allow cameras in the courtroom, and they filmed the whole thing. And that's made a huge difference in this case. That film is excellent. It shows a lot of what went on. Okay. As a result of that, 3 Californians, here shown with Damien, again, up behind the glass there on death row during a visit, began a website, wm3.org, which began to accumulate records. It now has, I think it very quickly became the largest archive of a murder case in American history, certainly the first. And they coined the phrase, "Free the West Memphis 3." My book, which was published in 2002, my effort was to go into the story at a depth that even a very good documentary could not do, and give a lot of detail and a lot of grounding to the facts of what happened. And I've often said that I felt that what I was doing in that book was describing a magic act. What appeared to the people of Arkansas and everyone who believed that justice had been administered here, and in going back in behind the curtain, sort of, and looking at the different maneuvers that had to take place in order for that outcome to be achieved. Okay. In the years since the trials, because of this attention, thousands of people have become interested and very concerned about the case. I was just in the past couple of months interviewed by a radio producer in Norway who then went ahead and produced a 6-part program about this case for his radio station. And believe me, it's a treat to go online and hear this Norwegian explanation of what's coming up, and as Mara Leveritt, and then I come in speaking English, and then it's back to the Norwegian. But that's what's going on. I get a lot of mail from New Zealand and Australia where they play that documentary, Paradise Lost, and there's been a subsequent one done, which is good but not as good by far. And so Down Under is very up on this case. There are fundraisers held in Dublin, all over the world. People know about what's going on here. In fact, the guy in Norway, when I wrote to tell him what I could understand of the interview sounded brilliant, he wrote back and said that they had just had, I can't remember what musician, play a concert there, and he was wearing the Free the West Memphis 3 t-shirt for his concert. So, many artists have gotten involved with this case. Metallica allowed its music to be played because one of the other things that contributed to this occult interest that Jason and Damien were said to have was that they listened to heavy metal music. And so much of it, the books they read, the clothes they wear, the music they listened to, so much of this hinged on what we consider our First Amendment liberties in this country. And so because artists are so involved in those liberties, many of them, especially musicians, have signed on and been very strong supporters. Here we have, that's Henry Rollins up there. You know Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, and Natalie Maines and Dixie Chicks, just among them. Okay. Meanwhile, these guys are growing old behind bars. Damien married Lori Davis, shown here with him in, I think, 2001, maybe. And Jason has been a very highly trusted and well-regarded inmate in the units where he's been. He's been a teacher and a counselor, and he's done very well at keeping a pretty upbeat attitude, but it's wearing on all of them. Jesse is kind of he just likes to be out on the work crew. I think last time he wrote to me recently said he was working in the laundry, but he does his work, and he likes to read his wrestling magazines, and that's pretty much and sleeping. That's his life. It's a very hard life. It's especially hard on death row. Death row is life in a little room of 9 by 6, I believe, room, almost no time, no exposure to sunlight, and very limited contact. It's the deprivations and the treatment are very, very rough. In the past few years, however, partly because of all the money that's been raised by all of the supporters who have gotten behind this case, there have been new investigations and a lot of new legal work. One of the big reports that was submitted to the court was that what everyone, the crime lab, the police, and I, believing them, thought was a castration, was actually, they said, animal predation, because the bodies were stuck in that creek, and that what everyone had thought was a castration was actually not. They retested some 70 items of DNA with techniques that were not available at the time of the trials, and that produced no match with any of the three. Not one single item matched any of the three in prison. But two things related to the stepfather of one of the boys. One of them was a hair with his DNA. His name is Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of Stevie Branch. One of his hairs was found inside the knots binding one of the children, not his own child, his own stepson. There was also another hair found in the bark of a tree that was collected, and it belonged to a friend of his who was with him on the night of the murders. Obviously, there's nothing there that's conclusive